Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we do not have a special guest because guess what, folks? Today it's me. You guys know about this podcast. This podcast is all about interviewing the experts, right? The expert sales reps in every different specialty, the senior leaders that drive those sales reps as a team, the CEOs from med device to pharmaceutical, you name it. I wanted to capture as much of the industry, from the industry as possible to inform all of you on what actually happens. And I've been loving it. I mean, we're 200 plus episodes in now. It's been 4 years. It's been the most amazing journey. And in all this time, there's one thing that I've never done. I've never actually talked about my story. Now, in my mind, I felt like, well, I'm here to try to show people what medical sales is and show them all the different facets and avenues and where you can go and how to get in and how to be your best. It just didn't dawn on me that people want to hear my story. And someone from my audience, a few people from my audience, said, Samuel, this is great. The content you provide every single week is fantastic. But when are we going to hear your story? So I said, okay, it's time. It's time for me to share my story. You guys know that I started in pharma. You know that I train in medical device, medical supplies, in diagnostic sales, in healthcare IT sales, all of it. I train in it. And I work with students in it, and I help people get better and become whatever they want within the field. But you don't really know how it all happened. And you know that we have this program with the Career Builder and the Sales Builder and social selling on LinkedIn. And you know that these programs help you to get into the industry. They help you to be better, but you don't know where it all came from. So here, without further ado, I'm going to give you my story. All right, so where do we start? Let's take it back to elementary. In elementary, I wanted to be a physician. I wanted to be a doctor. And I actually wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I'd watched a TV show when I was really young, and I saw this guy cawing out all the bones and deep in someone's body, just doing something. And I said to myself, wow, that's fascinating. And by 10 years old, I memorized every single bone in the body, and I was ready to go. By the time I got to college, it was going that direction. I had taken a lot of chemistry and biology in high school. I even took some college courses to really set me up for a college career to be a doctor. I went to UC Riverside, got into the biomedical program. At the time, it was a program where 24 people have the opportunity to really be their best out of hundreds. And those 24, ultimately, if they make it to the end of a 3-year program, which is focuses specifically on science and medicine, they get pushed to UCLA, they get into med school, and they become doctors. My sister, who's currently a doctor, actually went through that program. I did not. So what happened? In college, I got to shadow doctors, and I was fascinated. But I quickly came to the conclusion that, I just can't see myself coming to the hospital every single day in surgery. And I didn't know how to rectify it, but I just couldn't see it. And I knew that something about the business of medicine was a little bit more intriguing to me, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And let me tell you how much I didn't know. So at that time, this was towards the end of college, I got a position at a lab. My history in college is actually pretty colorful. I actually had to quit college my sophomore year. I was putting myself through school. I ran out of money. And I said, okay, I'm going to get a position at a lab and I'm going to continue my science education and maybe do something useful and pay myself back into school and we'll see where it takes me. That's exactly what I did. I met a PhD. He was working on a diuretic. He was a scientist. And it was me and 3 other people. 2 of us were students and 2 adults. And I was actually a lab tech. I worked with him for about a year, made enough money, put myself back into school. Now, being a physician was no longer the plan. And I was just a normal biology degree. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. 2 years I'm working for this scientist. And finally he comes to me and says, Samuel, you're coming on the end of school here. You're about to become a young working adult. What do you want to do? I said, well, doctor, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I got to shadow some doctors. I don't really want to do that. I can't see myself being in the hospital every day. He said, what do you mean? What's wrong with the hospital? I said, nothing's wrong with the hospital, but I want to be in more of a business. I'm big on relationships. I want to be out more. I want to be making deals some other way, just impacting patients' lives some other way. He said, you know what, Samuel? You know what you should do? I said, what is that? He said, you should become a pharmaceutical sales rep. I said, what's that? He's like, look up this company. He gave me the company GSK and learn what it is. And let me tell you how little I knew at that time. I had a job offer from T-Mobile and a job offer from GlaxoSmithKline, pharmaceutical company. And because of my ignorance, I really told the manager from GlaxoSmithKline that I had to think about it for a day because I really appreciated potentially working for T-Mobile. That's how little I knew. Long story short, I took that back to the scientist and he couldn't believe it. He told me to call her right away. And long story short, I took the job at GlaxoSmithKline. So now I'm a pharma rep. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it came naturally to me. I've always loved medicine. I studied on my own time just to understand things that I didn't understand. And in that position with Glaxo, I mean, it was just easy. It was easy to understand the information. It was easy to see these doctors. It was easy to talk these doctors' language. And that first year, I was number 2 rep out of 400 people my first year. I mean, it went straight to my head. And I said, wow, clearly I'm supposed to be here. College is done. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a pharma rep and I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm performing very well in it. Another year goes by. I'm in the top 10 again out of 400 people. And so I'm like, okay, this is it. I found my mark. People are telling me, oh, you're gonna be the next president of this, that, and the other. And I used to think, okay, yeah, I'm on my way. And then something happened. I had a personal setback. I got divorced. And I was a young man. You know, I got into the industry at 24, bought my first house by 25, started another business in nutraceuticals by 26. So I'm feeling like I'm killing life. I meet a lovely lady and I marry her by 27, divorced by 28. And the reason divorce rocked my world was because of how young I was at the time. I know we're in 2024. Half of you are listening to this and you probably have divorced parents or you're in one yourself or you've had one. I do not wish this for you, but it's just the reality of today's society that we live in. But when you're a 24-year-old young man that really believes he has the world in his hand and he just got to make good on that promise, something like a divorce just gets inside your head. And it's less about the person or about what they were doing or what they weren't doing. It's more about just the fact that you are supposed to be this married individual that's claiming to the world that you have done things the right way only to not do it. And to add on top of that, I'm a Nigerian. I come from Nigerian parents, and Nigerian parents, I'll tell you right now, any Nigerian listening can identify with this. There are strict guidelines around how you're supposed to show up and how you're supposed to do life that we want to abide by. And so when we don't or we fall short, it can be a lot, especially at a young age. And, you know, when that happened, it wasn't so much the person or, you know, the lovely relationship we had. It was the fact that that was the first time I did something and truly failed. Now, of course, I failed before, but, you know, I was pretty resilient and I looked at it like, okay, you fail at this, go, it's all good. Just get yourself back together, figure it out. And I usually did. But this time, it just rocked my world completely. 2 years in a row, I'm number 1 rep, killing it. By the 3rd year, right when the divorce is going on, I have my first poor performing quarter. And it wasn't just poor, it was like the bottom of the barrel performance. My head was not in the game and I didn't know what to do. I could not rectify what was happening. I couldn't stop it or correct it. It was gonna happen and I just didn't know what to do. So I told one of my good friends, and I love telling the story because I was the number 2 rep. He was the number 1 rep. I'm a black man. He was a black man. It was really cool to be underrepresented groups, number 1 and number 2 rep in one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies out there. I mean, how many people can tell that story? So I went to him and I said, hey, you know, I can't get my head right. I had the lowest quarter I've ever performed in. You're the best. You're number 1. I try to be like you. What can I do? What can I get into? How can I just get my head out of the dark here and back into business? And he said, you know what? I want you to listen to this guy. And he's always listening to these guys. And he was that kind of guy that's like Les Brown and this motivational tape this and motivational tape that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, not one of you. He's like, no, this time I want you to just hear this guy. Just check him out. And lo and behold, folks, it was Tony Robbins. So he has me listen to a CD by Tony Robbins. I think it was Awaken the Giant Within. And for whatever reason, that CD just spoke to me. I mean, I remember I was driving to my accounts and I was listening to this and I just started feeling like, you know what, whatever I'm going through, I might be able to get through this. I might be able to find my way. I get deep into his world of self-help. I read one of his books. I end up going to one of his seminars and I end up going to find a leadership development company. So these are like organizations of self-help where they take you away, they lock you away, almost like a cult, and you're tucked away from everyone and you're indoctrinated with their philosophy. And their philosophy is pretty much, they're like the most optimistic people you've ever met on the planet. So they're the ones that are like, it's not an issue, it's not a problem, it's just a challenge that's gonna make you more amazing because you're amazing. So let's just be amazing today. You know, imagine 3 months of that just completely, consistently driven into everything you think about. I got out of that program and my whole perspective was different coming out of there. Within 6 months, I had a job as in the biotech industry. So from pharma to biotech, that's a step up. You know, pharma, you guys know, is drugs. You're selling drugs. Biotech, you're selling devices and drugs. In some cases, combination. In other cases, either or. And I stepped into the biotech space, doubled my salary. Not the humble base pay of 40 grand back in that day, but the at-plan salary of 100. I doubled that within 6 months. New company, new position, new property, new everything. And I was the most optimistic ever. And the divorce was in the past. And, you know, I had real things going on. I had a child from that relationship, and I even had new management over my child. I mean, it was like, wow, the world just opened up for me. And I said, this is amazing. You know, within 6 months, by the next year, I'm a completely different person in a completely different place, better everything, performing all over again. And then I asked myself, how did this happen? Like, what really happened? And it hit me that, okay, I thought I was gonna be this pharmaceutical or biotech president. That's right. You know, there's a little clique of us, about 4 of us, and we thought we were gonna get together one day and make this pharmaceutical company, and it's gonna be, or a biotech company, and it's gonna be this next big thing. And of course I still wanted some of that, but then I said to myself, whatever I do in the future, it has to have this kind of work in it. I have to be someone that's helping people see things differently and change their lives to be better, because I still can't believe how well this type of work worked for me. Fast forward to about 2015, I decide to open up Samuel's self-help sales coaching company. I know, the name was special, but it's what I came up with at the time. And I started working with all of these sales reps in all these different industries. I had pharma reps, I had trauma reps, I had ENT reps, endoscopy reps, other types of medical supply reps. And then I also had real estate agents and resort reps and even food reps. Check this out. If you like eating chips, Lay's, or Doritos, did you know that there's a sales rep? A sales rep convinced the grocery store to stock it with those chips. I didn't even know that. Who knew? There's sales in everything, and I had the opportunity to work with these people day in, day out. And we weren't just any old sales training company. We weren't just, okay, this is the sales tactic and this is your business, this is how we're getting into it. We were talking about things like, how's your mindset and how are you prioritizing what you can do in your future and where do you want to take your future? I mean, it was really cool stuff. And I really was in the practice of imparting all this positive philosophy and thinking and driving life with serious intention into all these sales professionals. And it was great. And I wasn't making much money. I think I was maybe charging $50 a session, something like that. I didn't care. I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it because I knew that this was the direction I'm supposed to take my life because of the positive experience that I experienced. And then I said, we have this training company. I'm getting more and more people. It's still small potatoes, but things are happening. I'm gonna make a sales product. And I made this online course to be better in medical sales. You can use it as, it wasn't so much for covering cases, it was more for medical supplies, pharma, and medical device that did not include case coverage. And I thought everybody would love it. I went nuts and I got on LinkedIn and I tried to push it. Nobody wanted it, like no one. And of course nobody wanted it. Nobody knew who I was. I mean, even my little practice only had maybe 30, 40 people in it. I didn't have any content out there. I did not have a podcast or a book or anything. I just had my good nature and this product that I wanted people to benefit from. And while that was happening, I kept getting all these clients of mine saying, hey, Samuel, you know, this is great, but all the real estate agents, food sales reps, banking sales reps, they all wanted to become medical sales reps. And they would all ask me, hey, you know, I want to be a medical sales rep. And all the medical sales reps would say, Samuel, you know, I've been in trauma for a little while now. I want to do something else. I want more work-life balance. You know, what else can I do? And they want to get into other types of medical sales, or some want to get into biotech or pharma. And quickly, I saw that there's a huge need for all these people that are trying to make things happen, that are already in medical sales. And there's a huge need for people that are not to get into medical sales. And that was birth of the Career Builder. So 2015, I had that practice. By 2017, I decided that I wanted to open up a company that focused on helping people navigate between jobs and get these jobs. And I called it Evolve Your Success. I remember when I first started telling people about that name, and they were like, why would you name your company Evolve Your Success? That is the wackest name I've ever heard. And I was like, wait, no, guys, check it out. It's not whack. This is why it works. And I'll tell them, what does success really mean? I want to get $1 million. Is that success? Okay, sure. You hit the million, then I want to get 10 million. Is that success? Okay, then you hit the 10, then what? Okay, fine. What if it's, well, I want to have the prettiest girl or the prettiest guy. Okay, you get that person. I'm going to tell you right now, you get used to it, and it's not whatever you thought it was in the beginning. So what is success? I mean, that's personal thing, success. But the reality of us as human beings, is it really that we want to be successful? Or is it that we want to live in the effort of becoming successful, right? How many times have you heard people finally reaching the goal only to realize that this is not where it should end? What else can I do? The richest people, the poorest people, everyone across all facets of life get to that same conclusion with whatever they're doing. So the focus of human nature should be, how do I continue to evolve into a better me? Hence, evolve your success. See, I told you it worked. So I went with Evolve Your Success. And in the beginning, it was me working with just another person. So I had to let go of all my sales training clients because now we were a different type of organization. And I had to make a product, the Career Builder, that could serve someone who never ever heard or listened or had any context with what I was already doing. I found a teacher and we started working together. She wanted to be in pharmaceutical sales. She was over 40, and I'm not gonna say any names because she'd kill me if she knew I was talking about her. She was over 40 and she was a teacher for 20 plus years. She had all these friends that were pharma reps, but she couldn't get the job to save her life. And she would say, Samuel, this is where I wanna be. I know I can bring value, but nobody wants me. We worked together for 3 months and she got the job at a very prestigious company and she's killing it today. And when that happened, I said, okay, this is it. I'm gonna go nuts with this, and I did. I just accepted all kinds of people. People were already coming to me. And first it was teachers, then it was more sales reps, then it was college students, then it was nurses and other types of clinicians and more business people. And before you know it, I'm helping everyone get a job. And back then it was like 90 days. Give me 90 days and I'm gonna get you into this medical sales industry. 90 days and I'm going to change your life. It was amazing. And that was my, for lack of a better phrase, claim to fame, because that's what I was doing. And that did change, by the way, but that's what I had at the time. As we get more people, I realize I need more coaches. I need more assistants. I need more people that are in the medical sales industry that can add some nuance or understanding to a brand new student that wanted to find out where they should be and actually get the job. The more students we experienced, in the beginning it was 50. I think in 2020 we had 50. And then by 2021 we had 70. The more students we experienced, I started realizing that this 90-day thing, as catchy as it sounds and as cool as it is to claim, it shouldn't be the focus. Why is that? Well, what we started to see that nobody ever talks about is if you're someone that wants to be in medical sales and you don't really know what you're doing, and you take some job in medical sales like a trauma rep, and you don't wanna be working trauma hours, which is on call, a lot of these people quit 5 or 6 months into the job. I mean, it happens everywhere. So I quickly realized that 90 days should not be the focus, because you had all these people that were jumping into the industry. I'm gonna break into medical sales. And before you knew it, they're out of a job because they hate it and they don't even care. They just wanna be done with it. And of course, what does that do? It taints the hiring manager, because the hiring manager's like, well, I'm never hiring a green person again. It taints the industry, because the industry, the doctor or the surgeon or the nurse or whatever person in the hospital doesn't trust whatever that company sends because the last rep just disappeared. I mean, it's a cascade of nonsense. And so I said, okay, I know that my destiny is to help people be better. Not traditionally, right? Not a doctor or even a therapist, but to help people realize their own potential and truly grab life by the horns and just run with it. That was my passion. That's what I wanted to spend all my hours doing for other people. And it only made sense to me that Evolve Your Success worked even deeper, because if we can get the right people into medical sales that person that truly cares about the patient, that wants to make a difference, that has amazing work ethic, and just needs the opportunity to be given the chance to perform and show these doctors how they can be of value and truly change patient outcomes. If you're going to be in medical sales, what's a better, more noble cause than that? I mean, that was my thinking anyway. And it just made too much sense to me. And I knew that that's where I wanted to be. So I doubled down and we got even more people. Things really took off during COVID. You know, when COVID hit, the medical sales industry was hit tremendously hard because as a rep, you can no longer get into the hospital to talk to that doctor. You can't get into the clinic to talk to that doctor. You are on lockdown. And even when lockdown was lifted, hospitals were like, do not come anywhere near us. So people flocked to the internet. And this is where people start to see that we were doing this thing called Career Builder and say, wow, I want to be a part of that, right? You can't get access to your hospitals. So part of you is saying, I might need a new job because I don't know how long this company's going to be around. Another part of you is saying, and I need some tips on how to just get access to continue to do my job. And another part of you is saying, with all this COVID business, I want to be in healthcare and I think I want to be a sales rep. How do I do it? And we exploded. We really did. It was a fantastic time. We had so much business and we were helping so many people. Now, COVID was a travesty that hurt everyone. Me, you, I know everyone that's listening to this was affected. But as far as the good we were doing in the industry for folks that wanted to be a part of it, it was explosive. When COVID happened, you know, this is before I had a podcast, anything. One of my colleagues, he said, Samuel, you need a podcast. I said, that's not for me. He said, listen, you have a lot of things to say, and this is a great way to get the word out. And I said, well, you know, I don't know. I'm not I don't see myself as a podcast guy. He's like, just try it. I said, I don't know. But he was right. You know, there wasn't an avenue that I knew of anyway, that I could quickly get all this information out. And I just had a bunch of free information to give. So he said it again, and I finally said, okay, fine, I'll try it. And I made my first episode. And I actually enjoyed the process. It was kind of cool. I hunted for some guests, I found one, made a second episode, had even more fun, made a third episode. And by the 6th month, so 0 to 6 months, we had about 1,000 subscribers. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Things were happening. I'd always heard the old adage of, you're not a podcaster until you have 10 episodes on the books. And I had more than 10 at that time. And it was amazing. But it really got amazing when, right as COVID continued to happen, that 1,000 became 1,500, that 1,500, 2,000. I mean, this was happening like every other month. We were going up by 500 subscribers. We got to 10,000 downloads. And when I remember for the first time I saw that number, you know, let me be fully transparent. We were 9,000, like 900, something like that. It didn't quite hit 10. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, you know what? Now I have to continue doing this because clearly there are people out there that this podcast is doing something for, you know, and look, the guests I was having, you know, they were all kinds of leaders, but the kind of conversations we talked about, it wasn't just, hey, why are you so great? It was more like, how did you get here? How did you, when things just went wrong, like they do for everyone else, how did you deal with it that allowed you to get to where you got to, as opposed to the common scenario that happens? That was the kind of insight these guys provided. And not just with challenges, with successes too, with progressing with everything. And it was clear that I have to continue. Because if you're listening to this, and whether you had a bad day at work, you know, the doctor didn't listen to you and you're complaining, and you guys know how it is. You know, we have this phrase called the individual contributor's mindset. What is that? So that's the mindset of, you know, when the national meetings happen, you're gossiping a little bit. When the doctor doesn't do something right, or you have a funny situation, you're calling your colleague and say, oh my gosh, listen to this. And you're kind of doing that, and you kind of have this me mentality. When the company gives you a directive and you don't like it, you're like, what are they having? How can they have us do all this? This is called the individual contributor's mentality. And I thought to myself, I know that mentality. I know what it means to have that mentality, and I know how to speak to it. And I know how to take someone from individual contributor to kind of staying present in that greater good and understanding why things should happen. And when you have a podcast that's reaching that many people and just over and over reinforcing that kind of thinking with that kind of language, It's no longer some cool thing I get to do. It's a responsibility. And it became my responsibility, and I treat it like a responsibility. We got even more people, and then come around 2022. Things are cleaning up, things are getting better, we're getting more consistent. I had about 7 people on staff at the time, so maybe 7 employees. And there's one lady, she was fantastic. She was from the Philippines. She put herself through her own education, got her master's degree. I mean, she was ready to go. And she wanted to be the VP of the company. She would tell me every day, Samuel, she started off as an assistant, then she worked herself into a manager role, then she worked herself into another manager role. Before you know it, she was like my right-hand woman. She didn't get the title yet, but it was going that direction. And it was very fun working this company with her and helping all these people. And then she died. I found out she got sick on a Friday. She was dead by Monday. This rocked my entire world. It rocked the company, it rocked the organization, it rocked why we were doing this. I mean, it was a complete loss as far as I was concerned. But we had so many clients at the time. I mean, at the time, I think we had at that time, maybe 90 clients. So, and I don't call them clients, actually, you guys are my students. 90 students in the program at the time. And I did not know what to do. Let me be honest. A lot of times I don't know what to do, but life is so dynamic and we're in 2024. You don't know what to do, that's no excuse. You get online, you do whatever you gotta do, but the instructions are out there. But in this specific incident, I did not know what to do. So I ended up leaning back on my team, and such an amazing team I have. We all bonded together, we kind of reassessed where we were, and we ended up revamping the entire organization in her name. And I say in her name because she always used to say this thing. She used to say, Samuel, I want to run this company, and I want to run it so well that when I'm gone, it continues. And I used to just laugh and say, that's awesome. You know, I'm so glad you're on my team. Let's get it. And now with her passing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course I wanted to accomplish this. Nothing was going to stop me as far as I was concerned. But gosh, when something like that happens, you really are forced to look at why you're doing something and what does it really mean and what are you really trying to do and how seriously are you taking it to make something happen for these people you're claiming to care about. And that's what led to what you see today. You know, it came to the conclusion that we wanted to capture the entire life of a medical sales professional. We want to help the right people get into the right positions. We want to help those people that are in those positions be at their best so that when they work with surgeons, when they see those doctors, when they work with nurses, we have the opportunity to be the company that gets the right people into the right position. Once they get into that position and the people that are already in that position, help them be their best. How do they really show up as an effective rep? It's not just about doing the job, it's about who you bring to the job. When you show up every day, what person are you coming as? How are you making your customers feel when you show up on the scene? That all plays into being a successful representative that's actually doing the good work that's helping patient outcomes. And then what about all those reps that have said, look, I've been killing it for the last 10, 15 years. I got all these skills. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be working for pharma or some medical device company in some leadership position. I want to do something else, but I have no idea what to do. All these people were people that we could help. And for that last batch, we learned how to help them during COVID because we also, like everyone else, had no way to get access to people. And we had to lean on social media. We created our brand on social media, and more specifically LinkedIn. And you know, back in those days, I had like 1,000 followers, and I was trying to, I was just trying to get the word out. And by our dedication, content creation, focus, and just wanting to do nothing but help these people do better for the medical sales industry, I went from 1,000 followers to 24,000 followers. I went from making almost nothing to literally 7 figures. And it's like, wow. And while that's happening, all these people their lives are transforming completely. You know, people that thought they had nothing going for them, now making the money they never made, helping patients they never helped, just doing things beyond their wildest dreams. People that were in the industry now reaching levels. You know, one guy, 7 years, another guy 5 years, another person 6 years, same company, never even seen Winner's Circle, never got beyond middle of the pack, went to work with us, took one of our programs, and now they're just killing life. And so we also learned how to be effective with selling on LinkedIn. And we actually took that and turned that into the social selling program that we showed surgeons and sales reps how to sell on the platform. Surgeons want to grow their practices and reach more patients. Sales reps want to reach the surgeons, And it just made sense, and it became another successful program. But I'm not here today to sell you anything. I'm here today to tell you why and how we came to be. So you can imagine this, right? You go through all these things. You have your own definition of success. And whatever that definition is, doesn't even matter, because the reality of life is you want to evolve that definition every single time, every chance you get. And that's what this company has become, and that's what the company continues to do. When I was in my younger days and I was in the field, I wanted to be a manager at one point, I think. I wanted to be a sales trainer at another point. I eventually got to some of those things, but nothing prepared me for what I'm doing now. Because having a business, I think, is the best thing to show you how you can improve yourself to be better for the world. I think one of the biggest things that I learned is how to be a leader. And what do you think I mean by that? My definition of a leader is not, I know it all and I'm leading the ship and what I say goes. That's not a leader, in my opinion. A leader is someone that learns how to work with people to realize a vision that's bigger than themselves. That's being a leader. When you can enroll people into a vision that's bigger than you, and you can figure out a way to work with those people so you can all effectively do what you guys are good at and exercise the vision. I mean, that's leadership with a capital L. And I've had the blessing to have that instruction taught to me 40 different ways. Am I good at it? I'm not even gonna sit here and act like I am. I'm a student forever as far as that's concerned. But am I evolving? Absolutely. Am I evolving my success? Absolutely. Does it make me want to evolve more for other people? Absolutely. So people always ask me, well, Samuel, you coach on all these different specialties. You create all these programs for medical device and medical supply and pharmaceutical and diagnostic. Did you do all of these jobs? So, I didn't. My background consists primarily of pharmaceutical and biotech. So I did a little bit of devices, I did a lot of drugs, and I did some drugs/devices. But where I got all my chops as far as being able to speak and add value to all these different professionals was when I started the sales, my Samuel's sales training company, right? The life coaching company. When I started that company, I think the highest volume I reached by myself, I think I probably hit maybe 110, 120 people. And these are all people that I'm actually talking to, meeting with, a lot of them in person, and I'm working with them. And like I said before, the lion's share were from med device, quite a few from pharma, and then a bunch of people outside of the industry. But that med device and working with all those professionals, training professionals for 3-4 years, it gave me so much understanding into how to be effective regardless of the field. One thing that I'm so proud of is when we started this organization, we didn't say, well, we saw success look like this, so we're going to teach people how to be successful like this. We said, we've seen how success looks, but gosh, who knows how a success looks? Let's go to the source. So, one thing in our program is we actually work with surgeons, right? We have spine surgeons, we have orthopedic surgeons, we have neuromodulation, providers of neuromodulation, pain management, ENT. We have all these actual physicians that we work with in addition to the sales rep, in addition to the sales leaders. And that's where I got this experience. And then when I decided that for the podcast, I want the purpose of the podcast to be, I want everyone that gets wind of this to get educated on what it means to be in medical sales. What is it? How do you do it? Why do you do it? And what could life look if I decided to do it? That was my main objective. And from my experience, and of course the podcast, we absolutely got there. And that is why I do what I do today. And this is where we are, folks. This is my story. This is why I do this, right? You're listening to this right now, and you're either someone that wants to be a medical sales rep, and you're thinking, I didn't get another interview. I didn't get the interview. I went to the third round. I didn't get the job. Oh, that offer was terrible. What do I even know? I don't even know what to do. What do I even do? Or you're the sales rep that has the job and you're thinking, I don't know if I like my job as much as I thought I did. Well, I just can't get the success that I was looking for. Or I can't reach that promotion or winner circle. Or you're like the last crowd and you're saying to yourself, I've been here for years. What else can I do? I don't really know what that is. I kind of want to go. Maybe I'll stay. My goal is to be a solution for all of you. Just one. A solution for all of you. and double down on the fact that if you allow yourself to get the help, because I had to get help, right? When I had my first big letdown in life, I didn't get myself out of it by some strong pep talks. I literally locked myself away with a group that indoctrinated me with all these positive philosophies that ultimately helped me. But if you can come to terms with whatever you're falling short on, whether you're someone that wants to get into the industry, someone that's already in, or someone that's trying to figure out what to do when they get out, and get the help. If you don't get anything from my story today, just know that there's help available and there's nothing wrong with it. And if you can allow yourself to get it, it can literally change your life. My whole passion is evolving. My whole passion for other people is evolving their success. This is my story, folks. This is why I do what I do. And thank you for listening. So guys, there it is. That is my story in a nutshell. We don't know if I'm going to do this again. I did say this is the first time, 200 episodes later, to sit here on what I call a soapbox and just talk at you guys. But hopefully there was something you learned. And if there was, please share with us, let us know. As always, we do our best to bring you information and guests that are doing things different in the medical sales space. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast.